1 Peter chapter 2, and we're going to go through it tonight. We're going to pick up where we left off Sunday. And so here's some things that you need to know. My baseline for everything that I do and I teach as far as recovery, addiction, and whatever it might be is the Bible. Okay, that's where we start. Realizing that I started teaching on Sunday morning, 9:30 service and 11 o'clock service, it looked a little bit different. I went a little further in 9:30 than I did 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock I got kind of hung up in a couple of things, and so I'm going to pick up at a certain place. 9:30, you're probably going to say, I've done heard a little bit of that, and that's okay. But 11 o'clock you will not have. And so tonight we want to start, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start teaching. Did you find them? We're going to start teaching, and see, I was dragging my feet. All my friends that are online, glad to have you. I wasn't waiting on you, I was waiting on my eyes. All right, so so anyways, we're gonna start teaching, and I'm gonna go for an hour, and then I'm gonna stop, and then we'll pick back up on Sunday. If for some reason you can't be here on Sunday, we will stream everything, and we're going to record everything. This whole series is going to be recorded and streamed. You can pass it along. You can share it. You can do whatever you want to with it. We're going to turn some of it into booklets and ebooks and all kinds of stuff because I'm passionate about it, and I believe it'll help. All right? So let's look at 1 Peter chapter 2. Y'all ready? And this is kind of an introduction to addiction tonight. Here's what I want to talk about. How is addiction diagnosed? On Sunday, I talked about the difference in addiction and abuse. Drug abuse or substance abuse. I gave a lot of statistics. The biggest thing that you need to know tonight, if you haven't watched Sunday or you weren't here Sunday, is the biggest difference between addiction and abuse is abusers of substance and drugs can stop for short periods of time. Okay? So they can use, stop, go get a job. They can use, stop, go to that family function. They can use, stop, and do whatever they need to do for a day or two. But with anybody that's abusing drugs or alcohol or whatever it might be, they're not going to be able to stop for long periods of time. They can do it for short periods of time. Addicts do not have that ability. Addicts, if you try to make an addict stop or an addict has to stop, they have a physical reaction. They have a mental reaction. So the greatest difference, so that you know, between addiction and abuse is the ability to stop in gaps of time. All right? Now, on the surface, abuse, drug and alcohol abusers and drug and alcohol addicts look similar. Now, let me say this to you. I had this said to me after the service, after the first time I spoke, and I'm going to say this, it just needs to be understood, but some people don't understand me, so let me say this. I absolutely love people who struggle. In fact, I always have, and I gravitate towards people that are struggling. It's just been my deal. I pull for the underdogs, which makes me a prime candidate to wear Tennessee football gear. So, pull for the underdog. I say that to say this to you. You're never going to find someone, I will say this unashamedly, I don't think you're going to find anyone in your community, especially from a faith-based understanding, that has more of a heart for addiction than the guy that you're looking at. I tell you that not to brag on me. I tell you that to say this. I'm going to say some things, and if you're not real careful, the enemy will make you feel like I'm talking down to you. I am not. Okay? And if you're sitting with somebody and you walk out and you know that they're struggling, they go, I don't like the way he talked to me. He thinks he's better than me. Don't buy into that. That's not true. That's a manipulation tactic. I'm going to be blunt. I'm going to be straightforward. I'm going to call it like it is. But there's so much love in my heart towards people that struggle. In fact, I would say this, that people that struggle with addiction and abuse don't need to be talked around or just kind of tiptoed around. You got to hit it dead on and call it like it is so that we can deal with it. Unfortunately, when we kind of mamby-pamby stuff, we end up with a worse problem. So I say all that to say this. I'm going to use words like addict, addiction, abuser. Okay, I'm going to use those words, and I'm going to talk about folks in that condition. If you are that person, understand this. It may get a little hot under the collar, but I love you with all my heart. And if you come up to me after service, I'll help you find help. Okay? So you need to know that because I don't want you to think it's like those people. It's not those people. It's us. Every single body, every single person in here has an addiction to something. It's just a matter of what your addiction is, right? And those of you that don't think you are, try to not have coffee in the morning. See how long you make it. Right? And those of you that think you aren't, put the cigarette back in the box. Don't smoke it the rest of the night. Right? Those men of you that think you're not, leave a skull in a can all night. See how you do tomorrow. Right? Your lip will quiver you know, and your wife will want to kill you. So we have to understand it. So let's look at 1 Peter chapter 2. Then we're going to talk about how addiction is diagnosed. What are the signs that we look for? And then we're going to talk about some of the causes of addiction. And then we're going to talk about what we're doing about addiction. And then next week, on Sunday, when you come in here on Sunday, we're going to start to climb into the mind of an addict. And we're going to begin to look at that. I want to encourage you this Sunday to bring anybody that you know that struggles with addiction. Bring them with you. Because I want to be able to share with you and with them what their mind looks like. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. Long-term and even short-term addiction causes changes in the brain. So the person that you're getting frustrated with, they're not the same person that you used to know, okay? But they can be. It just takes some time. The Bible says this in 1 Peter chapter 2, says verse 9, says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of Him who has called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. For you once were not a people, but you are the people of God. But you now are the people of God. You had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy." He says in verse 11, "Beloved, I urge you as aliens and strangers to abstain from fleshly lust which wage war against your soul." If you have not underlined this, put this in quotations, circled it, highlight it. You need to know this right here. It's in your Bible. There are things in your life that wage war against a person's soul. Right? It wage war against their soul. It's what draws them into things. It's why they struggle with it. It's why we battle. There are things in life that are soul catchers, and they're different. And listen to the wording that Peter uses, and you need to understand when we're dealing with folks that we love and people that we're trying to help, they are in war, right? They're in war. There comes a place in addiction to where we don't use it to get high anymore or for the pleasure of it. I'm using it to live, right? How do you get so much pleasure out of that? You know what the truth is? They don't. But they can't stop, because if you stop, then I'm going to get sick and I feel like I'm going to die. So I keep using. The thing that got me to take it is not what keeps me taking it. And here you got to know that, because when you're talking to somebody, listen to me. When you're talking to somebody, you think, well, I'm going to be hard, I'm going to be tough, I'm going to grab them by the shirt collar, I'm going to threaten them, I'm going to do all this stuff. You're not going to scare them at all. You're just going to push them away, because they're already living in hell. It's war, dude. It's a war zone, right? And so when we're sitting and we're talking, it gets frustrating, because sometimes we love people so much that we don't see that. We just see bad choices. We just see the inability to make a different decision, or the choice that they're making. But what you have to understand is that person is in a war zone. And for some of us, we're the only paramedic that they're going to see to carry them off the battlefield, okay? And so you need to know that. That's not Philip talking. That's Peter talking in Scripture, okay? So here's what I would do if it was me and I was looking for a new perspective, or I was trying to understand, or I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do. You said, "Philip, are you going to tell us some things that you would advise us to do if we have somebody?" Yes, I am, but it's going to be a long series, and I'm not going to get to all that every night. But what you need to know is you write your loved one down, or multiple loved ones down, or whatever it is, and then out beside them, you just need to write this: they are in a battle, okay? And that's a huge undertaking. You got to know that, because if I understand they're in a battle, it changes the way I deal with them, right? And you know that too, because Paul wrote to Timothy about believers being soldiers for Christ, and we're in battle. And you know what he said to us? He said to us, no soldier gets what? Entangled in civilian affairs, okay? So we are all in certain types of battles, but what we learn is we have to be careful, because sometimes these people that are at war, if we come on too strong, we will not help ease the pain of what they're in. We'll make it much, much worse. So we got to figure out how to do that. So verse 12 says this: "Keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles, so that in the thing in which they slander you as evildoers, they may, because of your good deeds, as they observe them now, glorify God in the day of His coming." This is the goal. The whole reason, Philip, why are you doing this? Why are you talking about this? I was talking to a good friend of mine last night. He said, "You are opening up a can of worms." And we are. We are. And the reason that we're doing that is because the enemy has talked us into keeping the lid on things, and it's killing us. And it's messy and it's complex. And really, to be real honest with you, there's a lot of other places you can go. They're a lot safer than here, a lot cleaner than here. They don't deal with stuff like this because it's real messy, right? We're going to have real conversations. People are going to begin to ask each other, do you think I've got a problem? I take this medicine every day. You need to have that conversation. Do you think I'm overprescribed or underprescribed? Do you think it's normal what I'm doing? Sometimes people ask me that, Philip, do you think I have a drug problem? And I'll say, I don't know, tell me. The first thing is if you're asking if you have a drug problem, you might want to back up and go, that might be a red flag right there, right? I have never asked myself if I have a coconut problem. You know why? I don't eat coconut. There's been often times I've asked myself if I have a chocolate problem, specifically M&M peanuts, right? So the first thing is if I ask that question, I need to back up. Now, the truth is maybe you don't, maybe you do. But then here's the second question that I would ask you straight up. Can you quit? Can you quit what you're doing right now that you wonder if you have a question over? If the answer is yes, but, keep going. Yes, but I don't know that I need to. That's red flag number 2. It could be, no, I don't know that I could. That's huge red flag, right? The second question is, how long have you been doing that? How long? One of the things, we'll get to this, a lot of people get confused on the medicine that they're taking for pain. I'm going to say this to you, and I know I'm jumping off into a lot of stuff, but I've got an opinion about it. You don't have to agree with it, but I'm going to tell you I'm pretty close to being right. We have taught people to treat pain by covering it up rather than by treating pain for the source of the pain. Okay? We've got people that take medicines all the time, and you can't get on them because they tell you, well, I'm in pain. And if I don't take that, I'm going to hurt. What's your answer? My answer is stop taking things to cover up the pain and find you a doctor that will treat the source of your pain. Okay? Now, I know there's some tough situations where you can't do that or somebody says they don't know. I'm just telling you right now, you deserve better care than that, and I would look and look and look. There's certain situations where people are going to be in pain their whole life, and I understand you have to treat that differently. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay? So we will get to that later on. I got to keep moving. All right, here we go. So how do we diagnose? You got the first sermon last week, or Sunday. So how do we diagnose addiction? How is addiction diagnosed? This is not from Phillip Martin's big old addiction school, and I wrote down my top list. This is from certified clinics that help to diagnose. If you came to me later today and you said, Philip, I need help, or I've got somebody that I need help, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do an alcohol and drug assessment, okay? And when I say we, I mean like me and Charlene. We have a nonprofit called Line 9. We can help you get resources with that. Me, Charlene, Rachel, we help work with people all the time. The first thing that we're going to do is do an alcohol and drug assessment. Alcohol and drug assessment is going to deal with how long you've been using, what you've been using, why you use, all kinds of stuff, and they're going to begin to diagnose certain things through your addiction. All right? I tell you that to say this. Don't go home and play Dr. Phil and diagnose somebody. Don't walk in the room and say, sit down, I need to talk to you, and pull out the list that I gave you. All right? And then go, I need to ask you a couple of questions. Right? And then follow that up with, now, after that, me and the pastor think you're an addict. Don't do that, all right? Do not do that. But I will say this is for you to have to notice, either for yourself or for others. If it's for others, you need to help them by getting them to the right hands, okay? If it's for you, you need to have the courage to seek the help that you need, all right? So how do you diagnose it? Addiction is normally described or diagnosed in 3 different levels. You have mild, moderate, severe, all right? We're going to have 11 questions here that they're going to go over at different times in different ways. It may not all be worded the same. And if you begin to, and this is based on a 12-month, the past 12 months, okay? So if they're going to diagnose you for addiction, they're going to look over the past 12 months. Now, it may be longer than that, but they're going to really zero in on the last 12 months of your life, the last year of your life. They're going to ask you questions. If you have 2 or 3 of the next 11 questions, you're going to be considered mild. If you have 4 or 5, moderate. And if you have 6 or more, you're going to be considered severe. The first question and first way to diagnose is, here's a question that we want to ask, is the substance is often taken in larger amounts or over a longer period than was intended? Has this person been taking something, and throughout the time that they're taking it, could be prescribed, or it could be something else, but does the dosage continue to grow? Okay? Have you been taking it, starting it out at 2 milligrams, and you just continue to grow, and you would say, I've been taking, let's say Percocet. I've been taking Percocets for the past 6 months. I started at 2 milligrams, but now, did you believe they've got me at 8 milligrams? There's a pretty good chance that your body's starting to have a crave for that. Or how long have you been taking that? You've been taking that? How long did they told me that I would probably need to take it for the next, however many weeks or whatever, but come to find out, I've been on this stuff for 7 months. Pretty good chance you're struggling from some sort of addiction. You probably don't even know. And now, here's what happens in those phases. I got to have my pill. Not like I'm drooling on myself, got to have my pill, but to get up and get going, it's just like coffee. I got to get up and grab coffee and grab my pill. Now I'm ready for the day. See how easy it happens? It becomes a routine. So we want to answer that question. Number 2 is this, the things we want to look for. There is a persistent desire or unsuccessful effort to cut down or control use of the substance, meaning this. Not all these things are prescribed. Some things that we're addicted to, alcohol is not prescribed, heroin's not prescribed, meth, they don't prescribe that as far as I know. They don't prescribe certain things. So there are certain things that are not pills, there are other things, or they're not prescribed medicine. Here's a question. Have they been trying to control that and haven't been able to? Have they told you, I'm going to do better? Have they told you, I'm going to stop? This is the question that we're asking. So when we look at this and go, they have been unsuccessful in cutting down or controlling the use of the substance, right? There are certain substances you don't need to be using at all, so it's silly to even talk about control. There's no control in that, right? You shouldn't even be using it. But that's the question that we're asking. Number 3 is this. Thing that we want to look for. There's a great deal of time spent in activities necessary to obtain the substance, use the substance, or recover from its effects. So one of the signs of addiction is this, whether it's mild, severe, or moderate, is this. There's a large amount of life and time that is used for getting what they need. They wake up in the morning thinking about, if you talk to an addict, here's what an addict will say. I've sat down and talked with some folks before, and here's what they say. I knew I had a problem when we planned summer vacation, and I began to do the math and say, while I'm out of state, I need these many pills before I get back. You're saying, would an addict do that? Absolutely. I know I'm going to be gone. My resource for getting what I need is here. What do I need to get me through while I'm gone? See, an addict can't go 7 days and then come back and start back over. An addict's got to take it with them. So what would happen is they'd start to do the math. Would you be surprised that I know of folks that had to get 700 pills before they could leave for the week? True. Would you be surprised that wasn't somebody living under a bridge? Actually, it was a professional. So we have to know that. Now, so one of those things that we're looking for is, do they spend a lot of time trying to figure out where they're going to get? Number 2 is, do they spend a lot of time using? Okay? Not only getting it, but using it. Are they gone a lot? Having to run an errand? I just need to run down the road. I need to run down the street. Where are you going? I got to go down here. It's always something. Like every night something new. I got. Where are you going? Never can tell you, but it's you start doing them. You going, okay. What about this? Recovering from? What's that one? That means that in the mornings they're going to be a bear to deal with. Or in the afternoons they're sleeping it off. So you can begin to look for these signs. They're trying to get, they're trying to use, and they're trying to recover. And it's one big cycle. About the time they come out of the recovering, they go right back to using. And if they don't have it to use, then they go right to finding it. Number 4 is this, cravings, or a strong desire or urge to use the substance. I'm going to keep moving on this. We're going to talk about cravings. Cravings are exactly what you think they are, but they're for a substance. Anybody here ever crave a certain food? Yeah, you just crave a certain food. Like, I don't know what you crave. Here's what I thought of. This is what just popped in my brain. Thanksgiving, I crave pumpkin pie. Right? They start going, it's Thanksgiving. I can see turkeys. I can see whatever, and I'm going pumpkin pie, right? Some of us crave certain things. Would you believe this, that an addict or an abuser has a craving the same? They have that craving. I'm going to tell you something crazy about cravings is this. Cravings don't go away just because you clean. Cravings don't go away for a long time. In fact, I know addicts who have been clean for months will wake up in the middle of the night with a craving. Okay? You say, well, that's weird. No, it ain't. You do the same thing. You might wake up on a random Tuesday and say, I need a fried bologna sandwich. And you hadn't had fried bologna in years. Where did that come from? Your brain, your mind, your taste buds, they remember. So it tells you. You didn't ask for that. You didn't wake up and go, boy, I really wish I wanted bologna. You don't do that. It just comes on you, right? Sometimes, here's a craving too. Sometimes you have cravings, and we're not talking about drugs now, but you'll have a craving. You weren't meaning to have a craving, but you'll smell something that'll make you hungry for something that you weren't even thinking about, right? That'll happen too with addicts. They'll be in the wrong place, wrong time, doing the wrong thing, doing whatever, and all of a sudden their brain goes, you need to use, right? And so you have to be careful with cravings because cravings are crazy. It's hard to say. And they don't go away quick. In fact, one of the things that leads to relapse for a lot of folks is the craving that hadn't died. This is why I preach and teach long-term recovery. Why did your brother, sister, mom, aunt, cousin, why did they relapse after being clean 6 months? Is because their brain wasn't fully healed. They just weren't there yet, even though you thought they were. They looked like they were, and they thought they were, but they were just out one day and something happened. Now, here's what you're going to ask. What was your craving? You're not going to ask that question. You're going to say, what was the trigger? The trigger hits the craving. The craving causes the use, okay? It's complex, you guys, but really it parallels all of us. It's why every one of y'all started to diet on January 1st, and you've already eat what you said you wouldn't, right? Yeah, it's cravings. Number 5, recurrent use of the substance. Now watch this. It's a really big red flag. Recurrent use of the substance results in a failure to fulfill major roles, obligations at work, school, or home. Work, school, or home. They've either lost their job or going to lose their job. They've either lost their kids or going to lose their kids. They've either lost their home or going to lose their home. Addiction. You ever heard an addict give their testimony? And they say, I lost everything. I lost everything. You know when someone in addiction or former addict says, I lost everything, you know what they mean when they say they lost everything? Listen to me. They lost everything. Now, here's the dangerous thing about losing everything. There's somebody watching you lose everything. And some of us tell people, you're going to lose everything. Now, I'm going to say this. Shame on us that's going to tell people they're going to lose everything, but we're not brave enough to do something for the person that we say is going to lose everything. I don't like that. In fact, I don't think we can take pride in that. Now, if you've done everything that you can for somebody and they lose everything, that's on them. But if you're just standing back and you go, well, maybe that'll get their attention, it won't. Listen to me. If you think that dad or that mom losing custody of their kids or not seeing their kids will snap them out of it, it won't. They're going to keep on going. Now, in fact, they're probably going to use more. Because here's what's going to happen. They lose. Now watch, you don't have to like this. I'm just telling you. They lose. They already felt bad because they had an addiction and they thought they can't get out of it. They felt hopeless. And right, wrong, or indifferent, you say things like this. Do you not love me enough? Do you not love your kids enough? Do you not love this? Here's the deal. They do, but this addiction, they love more. And they don't mean to. Nobody means to. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, hey, I love meth more than I love being a mom. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, I love meth more than I love being a dad or heroin or pills or whatever. They don't. But here's what happens. This is what's terrible about addiction is it gets a hold of you. You can't walk away from it. It won't let you. And so they don't mean to love it more, but right now they do. Their body loves it more. Their brain loves it more. Their need for it is more. And so then they're going to lose, okay? So now they've been stripped away, and the whole time it was being stripped away, they felt hopeless anyways. So now it's gone. Now that hopelessness shoots to another level. That impossible of getting their life together goes to another level. And it comes to a place to where it's not only not going to get their attention, it's going to make it a whole lot harder to get their attention. Agreed? I know some of this side of the room will agree. Yeah? Now, I know, and you're going, well, that just don't make sense to me. Listen, we're not thinking like normal brains, right? If you told me right now, I have no drugs or anything moving through my body. If you told me, Philip, if you say one more word, you'll never see your kids again, guess what I'll do? Turn the mic off and walk away. Normal brain. Brain that, and I'm going to show you what a brain looks like. Brain that gets on addiction may know what the right answer is, but doesn't have the ability to do it. Okay? So understand that, okay? So we're just dealing with a different kind of concept. All right, so do they have that reoccurrent? Has it cost them work? Has it cost them school? Has it cost them home? Has it cost them all this stuff? And you're going, I wonder where rock bottom is. I wonder where rock bottom is. Listen to what I'm going to tell you. Addiction has no rock bottom. It has 6 foot down. That is rock bottom. So if you sat as a person on the outside goes, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. There is no this is it. There's only the grave. We've told ourselves with normal brains that this is rock bottom. There's not a rock bottom. Y'all may not like me saying that. I'm just telling you that's the truth, okay? So we don't wait on people to hit rock bottom. We don't do that. We do not sit back and go, I'm just going to wait till it gets bad enough and then they'll get better. You don't have a tool to measure that, right? We got to step in immediately. Number 6 is this. Use of the substance continues despite having persistent or recurrent social or interpersonal problems caused or exacerbated by the effects of its use. Meaning this, they continue to use even though there's consequences. That's the easiest way to say that. They keep losing, they keep doing, or their problems actually get worse, and they keep using. That's a huge sign. Number 7, important social, occupational, and recreational activities are given up or reduced because of the use of the substance. They stop doing what they used to do. They stop going where they used to go. They stop being out. They stop doing all that because of the use. They're hiding. They're sitting back. Now instead of having 6 o'clock down at the baseball field watching their daughter play t-ball, they can't go there, right? Because they're at home high. And you start noticing that. You missed the ball game the other night. Yeah, I was sick. Okay. One time maybe, 2 times, okay. But then they keep doing it. They keep doing it. It's not like them. You're going to know. If you're close to them, you're going to go, that's not normal. We had a birthday party and you didn't show up. Where were you? I just wasn't feeling good. You need to start going, hang on, wait a minute, right? Number 8 is this. Use of number 8. Use of the substance is recurrent in situations in which it is physically hazardous. How do you know if it's physically hazardous? You've probably said something like this, you're going to kill yourself, right? Or they come out of the hospital and go right back to it. Number 9, use of the substance is continued despite knowledge of having a persistent or recurrent physical or psychological problem that is likely to have been caused by the substance. Right? They have a physical or psychological issue that's going on now because of the use, but they still can't stop. If you, most of my addict friends, right before they got clean, there were physical signs. Their mouth, they talk different. You know, all of a sudden you're talking to them and you realize they're talking funny. Now, I'm not talking about slurring their words. I'm talking about physically their jaw's different. Or they hurt all the time. My back hurts all the time. There's physical things that go along. And even though they start having those signs, symptoms, right? Let's just get raw. You ever wondered why someone would use something that is going to permanently disfigure their face with sores or permanently change their teeth, right? Now, normal brain, when my kids are 14, they get taught about meth and stuff at school, and they go, Dad, I'm not doing that. Have you ever seen what happens to your mouth? I'm like, yes, son. It's called meth mouth, right? Nobody's proud of it. It just happens. I can't believe somebody would let that happen. Well, you've got a mirror. You can see you're changing, right? Why wouldn't you stop? Listen, you can't. Okay? You can't. Sometimes I see my buddies and my friends, once they get clean, they still carry the worldly side of that. And I know sometimes, and I'm just going to say this, with the heart of a pastor. I know sometimes it becomes an embarrassment. I say it's a badge of honor. You went there and you came back, dude. I'm proud of you. You know what I mean? But we have to just talk about that because that's a real deal. So why wouldn't somebody stop? They can't. Number 10, tolerance. Their tolerance has grown. Now I'm going to tell you this, and you need to know this, because some of us, I talk about this a lot. I'm real sensitive about this. If you decide you're going to get involved in your brother, sister, mom, dad, their addiction by getting them clean, listen to my words. Do not play nurse or doctor. You are messing with a cocked gun. Because you've got some folks that are in your family, you don't even know how long they've been using or at what quantities they've been using. And you're going to step in and it stops tonight. It stops tonight. You don't understand their body. A lot of times we will send people, and Charlene will tell you this, before we ever mess with rehab. Here's what happens. You start messing with an addict and you start talking to them, we want to get you help. They're going to say, okay, I think I need help. And here's the next thing they're going to say, I'm not going off anywhere. I'll get help, but I'm not going off anywhere. And sometimes we as loved ones will back off because they've got this, this, and this. But listen to what I'm about to tell you. Sometimes they need to go off somewhere, not just to break the environment, which I'm a big proponent of and I'll talk about later, but sometimes it's a health thing. They need to detox in a safe environment because what they have running through their veins, and for as long as they have, listen to me, it will kill them. They will die in your house while you're doing what you think is best. And the reason you did that is because, it might have been financially, but number 2 is because you let that sick person tell you how to treat them. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. Would it not be crazy if you found out you had cancer and you went to see your oncologist and you told them what treatment plan you're going to take? We just talked about Daryl. He had cancer. I guarantee you Daryl didn't doctor himself, right? You would not do that. You wouldn't do that. But we make exceptions for addicts because honestly, guys, we don't think it's going to kill them. And we think we can fix them. And so we let this person that's sick, and listen to me, their addiction is a disease. Just like other diseases, it will kill them. And they're going to cry, and they're going to threaten, and they're going to say you're evil, and they're going to say all these things, and what they don't know is they're not, man, you couldn't even walk away when the sore came up. But you're going to walk away now? That don't make any sense. You were going to walk away when you got your kids taken away that you haven't seen in 6 months. You're going to walk away now? No. Here's what we have to be able to do is we have to be able to say, you need help that's beyond you. And I'm willing to have that battle with you. And I love you, but this is the way we're going to do it. Because here's the thing, is these tolerances, because here's what's going to happen. They go away, they stop using, their tolerance is way up. You know where a lot of overdoses come from? If it doesn't have fentanyl in it, but you know where a lot of overdoses come from? Somebody that went through rehab, recovery, detox, whatever, and so they stop using for a few days, a few months. They come back, they have a craving, they go back, and they start where they left off. Their body can't take it, and it kills them dead. Okay? So I told you it's messy. Am I telling the truth over here? It's the truth. So what I'm saying is, don't play doctor. Get help. I would say this, in any environment, there's 2 people that need help. The addict needs help, and the helper of the addict needs help. Okay? Be willing and courageous enough to realize you can't fix it. So let somebody help you do it. Because tolerance is a big deal. Has their tolerance built up? Number 11 is withdrawal. So they look for tolerance. They're going to ask on the alcohol and drug assessment. They're going to say, how much are you using? Right? 3-4 times a day. They're going to use, if you're like me, when people are using, they know math. So they'll start hollering out grams and this and that. I don't know what that means. How much are you using? I'm using 3 milligrams of this and 8 grams of that. I don't know what that means. I don't even know how big that is. I'm like, okay, that's bad. But they're giving you numbers that seem small, but they're actually big. And so you need to realize you don't know that. The last one is this withdrawal. If you've ever seen somebody withdraw and you know it, withdrawals are a clear sign that there's a problem going on. Your body doesn't naturally withdraw, right? if you stop, if you cut out Cokes and coffee, are you going to have withdrawals? What's a sign? Headache? That's a good one. Headache, irritable, agitated. Those are all signs of withdrawal. In fact, we notice them in people because we go, "You okay?" And you go, I ain't had my coffee. I'm cutting caffeine out." Okay. For an addict, it's different. For an addict, the withdrawal can be those things: headaches, dizziness, irritation. But withdrawals, and this is what makes getting off of them so difficult, is they manifest in major physical effects. Shakes, sweating profusely, incoherent speech, talk, out of their mind. A lot of times when people are going through withdrawals of like a heroin or a meth, they'll see things, they'll have visions, they'll be talking crazy, out of their mind. If you ever, listen to me, I would just tell you this. I kind of have a mercy thing. Sometimes people say, well, they're going to detox in my home. I would say if you've never seen somebody detox, don't start in your house with someone that you love, because it is the scariest thing you've ever seen and witnessed. And what's going to happen is your heart's going to be so big, they're going to think they're dying, and you're going to be sure they are. Because you don't know a thing about drugs, and you're going to think they're dying. It's funny to me because sometimes people tell me they have this addiction, but I'm clean. And I'll say, okay, when did you get clean? I've used for years. I got clean. Okay, when did you get clean? I'm about 4 days clean. Cool. That's cool. And you may be like, that's a big thing. How have the withdrawals been? You know what? They haven't been that bad. When they say that, here's what I know. You ain't clean. Anybody that's ever been on something and got clean, it was the worst week of their life, right? And so I highly encourage people to do detoxing somewhere else and then come back, because then you're also going to have somebody that can hang with them in there and not give up, because they're going to think they're dying, you're going to think they're dying, and everybody's going to give up, and you're not going to see your baby in that condition or your husband in that condition, okay? But withdrawals are huge. Withdrawals will cause you to do crazy things. If you're trying to detox and you're going through withdrawals, you'll push through it. If you're going through withdrawals because you can't get what you need and you're not trying to get clean, that person can become extremely dangerous. You got to be careful, okay? So let's talk about what causes drug addiction. Everybody's hanging in there with me. We're moving through. Hopefully you're learning something. There's two major things that cause drug addiction. Two major things. Remember, we want to see people move from dark to light. There's other things, but I've reduced it for our conversation and for our series to two major things that cause drug addiction. Number one is genetics. Genetics, not drug use, but drug addiction. There's a difference in drug use and drug addiction, okay? Y'all understand? Remember, abuse and addiction. Like it or not, some of you guys aren't science people. I'm not a science person in the sense that, evolution and all that other kind of stuff, but there's a reason we have science. And even if you're against all that other stuff, you're thankful for science. You may just not know it. I mean, we need science. It does help us. But there's a part of your body, there's a part of things that you're predisposed to. I believe wholeheartedly in genetic sin. I believe that sin is passed down from one person to another. That's what the Bible says. And some of us, our sins are passed down and they look in different forms. Because some people are predisposed based on their DNA makeup to do different things, right? And you know what I'm talking about because you say stuff like this: he's a liar just like his daddy was. Where did he learn that? He comes by it honest, right? So genetics are pretty normal. You can look at a kid. It's funny because my kids are in middle school, and I watch these little middle school girls and some of the boys too. But I look at these middle school girls, and then they get in high school, and man, they're working real hard to be something. And you just want to grab them and go, you know what? It ain't going to work, homegirl. I know what your mama looks like. I know what your grandma looks like. That's your future, right? You can work all you want. Or you can look at that boy and say, brother, you slick it back as long as you can, because if you anything like your daddy, you're going to be bald. You understand what I'm saying? There's genetics. You don't pick that. The reason I mention genetics is some people become addicted because they're predisposed through it through sin. Sin came through one man. Right? It's here. And what they didn't realize is when they took that drug as an experimental thing with their friends, they kicked off something that was too big for them to control. And what they've done is they've opened Pandora's box genetically inside of them, and they battle it for the rest of their life. You ever looked at a family and just wondered, how are they're all using, you know what I mean? Now, some people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree. If you want to take genetics out, take it out, and you just say, I don't believe that. I believe everybody's born with a clean slate, and nobody's predisposed to that. Okay. But understand something. If you are tested for cancer, what's the first thing they're going to ask? Anybody in your family? My son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. You know what the first thing they asked? Does anybody in your family have diabetes? You know what it didn't do? It did not offend me 1 ounce. You know why? Because it's a disease and it gets passed around. So is addiction. It's the very reason that some of us are hard on people and we say this, well, you know, I was in college and I did my share partying, but man, I didn't turn out like them. Well, quite frankly, you didn't have the genes for it. You had the ability to walk away. You had the ability to lay it down and never have to deal with it again. They didn't. Well, we're in the same family. Well, that's okay. That's why one of you got blue eyes and one of you got brown eyes. It's just the way that it is. I say that to say this. For those of us who have addiction in our family, we have to work harder to never, don't open that door. If you open that door, the enemy's going to kick it all the way in, and you're going to be in a fight for the rest of your life, right? At the same time, if that's not your deal, don't be so hard on somebody else just because you never had a problem with it. You smoked a joint one time when you were in high school or college, and you've never had the desire to do it again. Well, you know what? Your buddy smoked it, and he said, boy, I like this, right? Don't look so, it's different, okay? And so you need to understand, number one, that's one of the causes for addiction. Number two is environments. Genetics you can't choose. Eventually, environments you can. Now, the first part of your life, you can't choose the environment that you're in, but that environment can breed addictive behaviors. Access. Some people become addicts because they have access to it. Right? Would it surprise you to know that when I take my 5 children home tonight, there's a 0.0000% chance that they're ever going to accidentally try meth tonight in my home? 0% chance in my home they're going to try meth. You know why? There ain't no meth in my house. And if there is, me and Mandy need to talk. Right? Would you be surprised to find out that there's some kids that are going to go in their house and there's a 50% chance that they try meth tonight because it's in their home. Okay, so environment is everything, okay? Listen to me. I don't know what we have in the room, but listen to me. I know a lot of adults, their pastime is to roll one and smoke it, you know, and you start kind of getting up there and saying, well, they're legalizing marijuana and doing all that stuff. Okay, whatever, but I'm just going to tell you something. You may be able to do that, and you think that you got it under control, but your 15-year-old son or daughter is coming up through it, finds it in your tackle box or in your lock box out in your garage that just went out and smoked one. You didn't realize this, but the thing that you've got as a hobby that you don't think has a hold of you is about to take a hold of her because she's got the genetic disposition to never be able to lay it down. You see what I'm saying? Environment starts. A lot of times addicts will be able to take you back when they first tried something. And it normally is in an environment that was conducive to it. Health care is a major environment issue. Peer groups, who you're hanging around with. Like it or not, an environment of educational opportunities. Educational opportunities. Now, I will say this, addiction because of the pill and pain pill addiction that's come on, it's blown educational stuff out of the water. But I will say this too, and me and Charlene were talking about this the other day. There's a reason that big pill pharma's picked on the Appalachian Mountains. There's a reason. Because they knew that we didn't have much, that a lot of our folks sit around all day, that they're living on food stamps or whatever it might be, that they already felt hopeless. It didn't take a lot of pushing to give them something else to do with their time. All right? So we can argue with education and say it ain't about education. There's a lot of that that's true, okay? Or like their presence of drugs in the home, beliefs and attitudes. I want to say this to you. Some people, I don't think they're in this room, but there might be. Some people would say this, well, I want to be careful and let my kids decide in life. I don't want to lead them down the wrong path, and so I try not to make up their mind for them. But we've created this society where I'm going to let my children decide certain things. If that happens to be your mindset, you can write this down and take it to the bank. As a parent and as a leader in your home, if you don't lead your kids, something will. If you don't come out aggressively and say, we don't do this, that's not acceptable. Oh, I'm afraid they're going to get mad at me and not like me, or, listen to me. If you don't lead your kids, something will. Your kids are dying to be led. This is why sometimes we deal with people that go, man, I don't know what went wrong. What went wrong? What went wrong? You were too afraid to step up and lead that son or daughter, maybe. I don't know. So don't let society scare you into that. Be strong, courageous in your home. Just tell your son and daughter, there's lines here, we don't do that. Well, you're just no fuddy dud. Maybe, but I'm going to keep you from being an addict, and you'll thank me one day. And we'll laugh together since I'm such a fuddy dud. Right? Family usage is a big deal. So genetics and environment. What are the risk factors for addiction? Y'all ready? What are the risk factors? I got a few minutes left before my time is up. Oh, man, I got all kinds of time left in my world. All right, risk factors. Number one, here's a risk factor for addiction and abuse. Family history. We just talked about this. Family history. Drug addiction runs through the family. This is why it's so important that we have prevention alliances in our community. We just launched one on Monday in Loudoun County. Line 9 just launched one with the help of the Grove. The Grove is the leaderships of a brand new prevention alliance of Loudoun County. It's a drug coalition in Lenore City and Loudoun County schools. You just started that. That's fantastic. It's going to be in the newspaper before long. But the reason that is because family history. So we can look at family history and say, we've got to really step up here. That's a risk factor. So if that son or daughter comes from a history of users, what was it Hank Williams Jr. said? It's a family tradition. He's telling the truth. It's true. But this one will kill you. Mental health problems. I need you to do me a favor. Not everybody's going to agree with you, but I'm going to fast forward you 5 to 10 years right now, okay? You need to write down mental health problems - I'm okay with that terminology. People get all weird when you start talking about mental health. The reason is because most of us grew up in this, well, I was going to say 70s and 80s, but some of you but we grew up, so if we used words like mental health or mental, it's a negative thought, okay? Those kids that are up there together tonight, they're not thinking the same way, okay? Mental health problems, mental health issues are not bad words. You say, well, I don't have any mental health issues. You ever get anxious? Anxiety? Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. I've noticed sometimes my hands break out in a sweat and I can't handle crowds. According to science, you got a mental health issue. No, I don't. You're getting a little anxious right now there, pal. Where do you think that came from? My hands just sweat. And that's starting in your brain right there between your ears. That's mental health. ADHD, ADD, mental health, right? I don't want anybody to label my kid. I don't want anybody to label my friend. Like, can I tell you something? You're already labeled. Labeled. I've hired a ton of people since I've been here. I've yet to find their label. You know? I never get their resume and go, I notice here that you're labeled. You know what I'd rather know? That they got the proper treatment for whatever it was that they were dealing with before they got here. And you would too. Okay? So don't be afraid of depression. That's a mental health issue. I'll tell you what, depression, I had this thought today. I'm not going to jump off into the depression thing because that's not my deal. Depression is taking a hold on our community. I don't know what it is. I think part of it has to be the weather. But I'm serious. Depression is weird, and it's a mental health thing. And depression has a way of distorting stuff. Sometimes I have conversations with people, and they're depressed or dealing with a funk. And I can already tell by the way they're talking to me, they're looking at me different. And I'm like, what are you looking at me different for? You know what I mean? And I'm not being ugly, and I'm not being silly. But it's here, and it distorts reality. You know, because you get down in a funk, you get down in this. Guys, I'm just telling you, these are risk factors. So what happens is you get somebody down there that doesn't get the proper treatment they need, Everybody's against them. Nobody likes them. They can't be trusted. They don't trust themselves. Guess what they do? They turn to something to alleviate the pain. All right? I'm just being real with you. Y'all don't have to like it. You can go to another church and they'll just not tell you that stuff, but it's true. Bipolar disorder, that's a mental health issue. PTSD, that's a mental health issue. Hey, listen, you might want to do this. Write down PTSD and then dash, it's not just for veterans. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. You know what I've found is a lot of us in here deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. I deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not proud of it, but I do. I was fired in West Knoxville on one of the worst days of my life. They let me resign, but I was fired. My wife says, let's go eat in Turkey Creek, and my hands start sweating. I'll think of I'm talking about today. I'm talking about right now. She'll say, let's go up to eat it. She'll name one of those restaurants, and she'll tell you right now, me and her can have an argument on the way there. And she's like, fine, whatever. And then we find ourselves sitting in Oak Ridge. And she goes, it's 10 years ago. And I go, I know. I just can't breathe. You know, because I'm afraid somebody's going to walk in that I know. They're going to ask me a bunch of questions, you know. You say, really? That's real. That's real, man. So I'm just telling you, that kind of stuff happens. If you've faced stuff in your life where you've been hurt, you've been left, you went through a divorce, whatever, the sound of something. Have you ever noticed sometimes you can be in a room and you start talking about something and you didn't notice it, but that person got up and walked out? Where'd they go? Right? They started dealing with some symptoms. They just had to go, I need to breathe. I need to get out of here. I got to breathe. So you got to be aware of these kind of things, because these kind of things are things that drive our people and our loved ones crazy. It makes them feel weird. It makes them feel crazy. They don't know how to cope with it. So the next thing you know, they're taking something to deal with it. So we got to be actively participating in their life. So risk factors: family history, mental health problems, adverse childhood experience. Adverse childhood experience. What's that? That means this is a risk factor. If something traumatic happened to you as a child, there's a greater risk that you will have an addiction problem sometime in your life. Not just drug addiction or alcohol addiction. Sometimes it becomes a sexual addiction. It can become all kinds of stuff. If you've been emotionally, physically, sexually abused as a child, it increases your risk for addiction. This is why I encourage people, no matter who you are, if you went through something as a child, find you a good counselor and talk about it. See, sometimes you think, well, I just want to keep that to myself. It increases your risk of having some kind of coping issue later. We talked about this last night at CR. I think everybody in here needs to be at CR. Hurts, habits, and hang-ups. You know, we talk about this. Secrets make you sick. You can be 42 with a 38-year-old secret, and that's why you're sick. In a moment that you share it, it helps you get better. So you just need to realize adverse childhood experience creates a greater risk for addiction. I would say this to all my teacher friends in here too. You didn't ask this. I'm going to tell you, all my teacher friends. Man, oh man, I love teachers. I'm trying to start a school. Did you know, teacher, that one of the things that God may have divinely appointed you to is to be the most positive influence on that child that got your class finally this year? And what you didn't realize is they have an adverse childhood experience, or maybe they're living through it right now, and you're their only saving grace. That's why I get so frustrated at teachers. Man, I can get so frustrated at teachers, because I think, if you're a teacher, I'm not bagging on you, okay? I think teachers forgot why they got into teaching sometimes, man, you know? And I think sometimes we don't realize, it's one thing if you jump on Malachi Mason and Maverick, or even Mahala. Good luck with Memphis, but it's okay. I mean, if you do, because they're going to come home and they've got parents that's going to talk them back up and try to explain it to them. You got other kids that you're jumping on. You know why you're jumping on? Because they had an adverse childhood experience. That's why they're acting the way that they're acting, and it's being compiled. You could be the person that offered a hand out instead of a voice down. All right. Glad I said that. You see why I make so many friends? Sometimes the boys will go, Dad, will you go down to the school? And I'm like, what do you want me to do down at school? They're like, will you go talk to such and such? And I go, you don't want me down there. I was like, first of all, you in trouble because of me. They ain't mad at you, they mad at me. Second of all, I better send your mama. They'll like her. Anyways, all right, let's keep moving. Social pressure is a risk factor. Social pressure, who you grow up with. Some of y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. You went through those teenage years and early 20s. You only did what you did because you were hanging out with them. Lack of family support or involvement. Lack of supervision. Lack of supervision becomes a risk factor, okay? Now, some of y'all have supervision on your children and they still figure out how to use. I was having a conversation with a dad today, and here's what he said. It's the hardest thing in the world to be a parent. Even when you make the right decision, you think you're probably wrong. Your kids don't know. But here's what I would say. Don't err on the side of lack of supervision. Okay, go back to what I said before. If you don't lead your kids, somebody will. Most of us got in trouble because our parents weren't looking. I knew when mine wasn't looking. I could do what I need to do real quick and get in a lot of trouble, right? So lack of supervision becomes a problem. Early use of drugs. Remember I gave you a statistic last week or last Sunday that substance that students have tried at least once before the age of 18, 91% before 18 will have tried alcohol, 40% will try tobacco, 47% will have tried marijuana. Almost half of people that you're seeing right now before they turn 18 will have tried marijuana. 18% will have tried prescription drugs, somebody to give them a Xanax or a Hydro or something. They've tried that, 18%, and 5% have tried illicit drugs. The problem with that is early use of drugs, 18 and below, creates a higher risk for addiction later on in life. Okay, so you need to be very proactive in your kid's life. The last one, the last one is this: use of highly addictive drugs. Well, this is a no-brainer, but one of the risk factors for addiction is that you're using something that's highly addictive. I shared with you on Sunday the top 5, according to CN, top 5 things that are addictive in the world. Heroin, cocaine, nicotine is the top 3, right? And so if they're using these top addictive stuff, it's going to be very addictive and get them in trouble. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop. Actually, I'm not. I need you to give me 30 seconds. Listen, don't egg me on. All right. Why would anyone want to start using? Here's the top reasons that people start using. That's what we have to add. Why would you start? Experimenting. Number 2 is prescription drugs. You never intended to become an addict. You became an addict because someone prescribed it. Remember what I was talking about at the beginning about your pain? We're going to talk about that, and that's going to be very controversial, but I'm willing to make the conversation happen, okay? We're going to talk about treating your pain or treating the source of your pain. Prescription drugs, they didn't mean to start using. They just kept growing with it. Loneliness is a top reason for using. Peer pressure is number 4 reason for use. Number 5 is makes you feel good. Wouldn't you think that would be the first one? It's not really. It's number 5. Number 6, mental health disorders, mental health issues. They'll start you to use. You're just tired of feeling crazy. You're tired of feeling down. You're tired of messing with your dopamine and serotonin. We're going to talk about that, so you take something to deal with it. Number 7 is recreation. You just started using it recreationally. Number 8, people would start because they're self-medicating. You find that you're struggling with something, you're about to go to bed, you walk by, there's all those old medicines in there, and you notice that there's one there that you've heard of before. It's a Xanax, it's a Percocet, it's a Hydro, an Oxy, or whatever. You say, I'm just going to take this to sleep. I can't sleep at night. I'm thinking about it too much. Next thing you know, you've developed an addiction. We self-medicate. Number 9 is coping. You want to ease the emotional pain. I can't face this. I can't deal with this, so I start taking these things to ease all that, so I'm coping with that. And number 10 is hopelessness. Hopelessness. People start because they feel hopeless. I mean, what else? It doesn't matter. I mean, what else are you going to do? You just feel hopeless. Those are the reasons that people start. All right, this is our series. I hope that it's been beneficial. Did y'all enjoy tonight? All of our folks that are on the internet, we're thankful. Here's what I want you to do is I want you to join me on Sunday. Bring a friend with you, 9:30 or 11 o'clock, and I'm going to continue to teach. This week, we're going to talk about the mind of an addict. So why would people start? There's the reasons. There's more than that. If I didn't name yours or something that you've heard, that's okay. Add it to the list. But this week, we're going to climb into the mind of an addict. I want you to know what the brain looks like on drugs. And it doesn't look like that old scrambled egg thing that you used to see when you were little, right? It's far worse than that. Let me pray for you. Get out here. Go get your kids. God, I love you. Thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on addiction. Thank you for the opportunity to take light into darkness. Thank you for the opportunity, God, to extend a hand to those that we love and we support. None of us in here have the answers, but we do know this: you are the answer. And so I pray that you would just use us to get in the trenches with those that we love the most. I love you, and I pray that you would use this series to bring many to the light of sobriety and clean living in you. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Get out of here, you guys.